What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jaci Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandRUSSO.com.
Michael, joining us today is Mathison. He is, first of all, a font of great information. He agrees with things that I say, which always makes me happy. But more important than that, he's a seasoned entrepreneur, investor, and co-founder of MBL Partners. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about his new book, Leadership Orbit, with his 25 years of experience in transforming businesses across various industries. He's known for his strategic insight and his relentless drive. He is awesome. And I think it's a conversation that everybody is going to appreciate listening to.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and we've had a lot of people on in the past few years actually talking about leadership at different times, and he has a different take on it, definitely. I think his perspective is very unique, and it's not a conversation that's not worth having over and over again. I mean, it's relevant. It's like we all want to have leaders in our lives. We want to be leaders. How do you do that? How do you accomplish those things? And it's not always, we talk about that, and towards the end of that, it's not always a step-by-step process. Sometimes it's just a belief system and understanding what it is,
Exactly.
I don't know if that makes sense or not. It feels like you're wrapping up already.
Well, I kind of thought we were because it's just an intro, and then
I
we're
can
going to
see
go
your
right
eyes.
into the episode.
You're not even engaged with me right now. You're looking at something else. You've already moved on.
I am currently dealing with your daughter's key situation, so that's my priority.
I can't put that on the air, so say
No.
something else. Anyway, there was the moment though. I've never laughed so hard. If you stick through towards the end, there's a moment where I share something and I'm talking, and then I look down and you and the guest are both looking at me like I'm crazy. And then there's dead silence when I stop talking. I'm like, what the hell? Both of y'all.
Well, Matthew and I both were caught a little off guard.
What did I say?
Couple of moments. Your notebook moment was also very humorous.
I'm just speaking it. I mean, no, that's the thing though. Like you're like all like almost like, oh my God, Matthew, say something else. You're so smart. You're so smart.
He is smart. That's why we booked him as a guest.
I know, but you're like all into it. You're all into the coaching thing. You like love people like that. You're like so into that whole world. I'm like trying to poke holes in it the whole time. Like, yeah, because I'm not that guy. I'm not going to ever read his book because it's not my thing. But for leaders or people that want to grow in those things, they're important. That sounded so bad. God,
You're just going to have to cut this entire intro. I mean,
I didn't
stop
mean
talking and start the episode. This is
I
awful.
was trying to convey that there's different
No.
types of leaderships, and he agreed
No.
with me. He just didn't say that.
No, he did not.
There's leaders that run companies, there's leaders that start companies, and there's leaders in their own world that rise up and grind out things, and they lead by example. They lead by dedication. They lead by authenticity, by being authentic to who they are and the mission and having ownership in those tasks. I think that is part of the leadership cycle that he was talking about as well.
Right.
No, don't say that. Like what I said was very smart just now.
I'm hoping you're editing the heck out of this.
Let's move on.
Matthew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for showing up and giving us your time and your talent and your attention, and we appreciate it. I think for the good people who are listening, if you don't mind, obviously I've done my typical introduction on the business side, but tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you have going on right now? What's happening in your world?
So I am a serial entrepreneur. I love building businesses, fixing businesses, helping start things. And in the course of that, I have recently launched a new investment platform called MBL Partners. And as part of that, I actually just published a book called Leadership Orbit, which really centers around the mission of what we're trying to do at MBL Partners. We're really all about helping leaders and individuals, and by extension, the organizations thrive. And I think we have a really interesting take on what the word thrive means. And so we're really busy and passionate about that and doing lots of things associated with that.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk more about MBL and the platform. How will it work? Who will it help? What problem does it solve?
Everyone from small business owner to low level, entry level worker at a business that just wants to be better, more valuable, more resourceful, grow and learn, all the way up to, big, large private equity backed organizations that have institutional following and everything in between. So we're sector agnostic. We play in a variety of sectors, including real estate, oil and gas, healthcare, to services oriented and technology. So it's a sector agnostic. It's really focused on really getting at the center of what creates this momentum that comes when individuals, and then by extension the groups that they work in, kind of get into this thriving, orbiting, self-sustaining, progressing module where magic happens. And so that's what we're up to.
I love that. So it's like a dating service in a way?
More like an advisory and an investment service.
Okay.
Dating, that would be an interesting play. It'd be fun to go down that plan on how I could actually tie that into likening that to a dating service, but that would be interesting.
I mean, kind of, because you're matching,
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So it's
True.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
We had an interesting experience recently here at the agency. We worked with, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lou Mosca with AmServe, their consulting company. And they came in and I think gave us a real good perspective on, everything from financials to pricing to, payroll, and surveyed the employees. What's your take on that, on having outside third party kind of fresh pair of eyes?
It can be amazingly valuable and helpful, and completely worthless and a waste of time. And both things can be true at the same time. I'm a big believer that where there's true alignment and incentives, really smart, good things happen. Where there's not alignment, it's kind of wasted. And so when you bring in an outside third party consultant type arrangement or service provider, it's hard. You have to make sure that they truly are aligned in your interests, which isn't always the case. And so where they are, man, it can be really helpful to have, really, a fresh outside perspective, obviously experience and kind of a focused view, where you're not really in the day-to-day throes of work, or just the fires that you're putting out. By the way, that's a really bad analogy right now. My heart goes out to all of the victims in California. I mean, it's just crazy.
For perspective, at the time that we're recording this, it's day 3 of the fires in Los Angeles, and there's still no containment. Just for perspective, for people who are listening to it later, obviously by the time they're listening to it, hopefully this will be under control. Yeah,
but as the fire analogy ran out, I had to pause for a second, because that's terrible. But anyway, look, you have to. It's really amazing when you get that outside, really dedicated, experienced help that many consultants offer. It just has to be aligned in the right way, because sometimes in that alignment's not there, it's truly wasteful.
Right. No, absolutely.
And I don't know how many meetings we've walked into where the first thing they do is put up a stack of consultancy reports that have never been touched. And they just keep hiring people over and over and over again. And we do the same thing. We're consultants in a way, based on branding and advertising and marketing. But hopefully, like I said, we try to really be tactical in implementation, that it's not just superficial jargon and word speak and things that aren't pragmatic. You can't use any of it,
Yeah. And absolutely. And you can definitely become paralyzed with analysis and data. Which sometimes consultants go overboard on the data side of things. We like to really focus on the action side of things. And we think that you learn and improve more when you're moving and making decisions, even if some of those decisions prove to be, a little bit, maybe they were the wrong decision. So long as you're able to quickly adjust on the fly, we think that's where real powerful improvement can come from. Many consultants are good at that. Many are not.
Yeah, for sure. So you also spend some time in the leadership training, professional development space. Is that fair?
I believe that that is I believe everyone, whether they want to or not, are either helping develop leaders or the opposite inverse side. And so, yes, that is absolutely fair. I'm a big, big believer that individuals, all of us, have in us the potential and the qualities and the attributes to become wonderful leaders in our own sphere and in our own orbit. I do not believe in leadership by title or by corner office or by assignment. I believe leaders and leadership comes from anyone and everyone and the everyday you and me's. And so, yes, I believe ultimately leaders are what make things happen. And so, yes, I purposely focus on that. I think it's one of the most important things that I believe our society generally should be leaning into. I think that many of our most severe problems and challenges, whether that's business, political, social, economical challenges, and I believe that it's really going to, the solutions are going to come from the leaders that emerge. And so I think we should be investing heavily in developing and empowering leaders.
I have a question on that because we've had a lot of people on here in the past year, and it seems to be more and more relevant. People talk about leadership and training and culture and things like that. It seems to be, top of mind for a lot of companies right now in the day and age we're living in, and for rightfully so, and ours included. And I'm curious, as you were talking about that, though, can you have leadership without ownership? And if so, how does that work if you don't? You know what I'm saying? Like I just thought of that in my head as you were talking. I'm like, because most leaders have a stake, and then you have teams of employees, people that work for that company or that iteration. And do leaders evolve from that when they don't have a stake? And how do you promote that otherwise? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's a great point. I think it feeds into the great leadership lie, though. I think leadership as we know it is truly dead. And I think that we've been deceived broadly around what leadership means. We often, I think, assign the word leadership to a title or the role of a leader, which I think goes into the heart of your question, right? Leadership, can you have leadership without ownership? Which kind of goes into, can you be a leader without, owning, right? And I actually believe leadership, right? The qualities of leadership actually can come from anyone and everyone. And it really is about, and I know you all are focused on and have an incredible background in branding, but I think great branding, just like great leadership, is more about how someone or something makes you feel, and then what actions it then drives you to take part in. Then it has to do with someone with some assigned role and authority piece that can make decisions for your behalf. I think it's about the feelings it creates. And that, I believe, comes from anyone, whether they have ownership, financial interest or not. They can make people feel motivated to progress or get through something or advance. Just like a good brand, ultimately, how does that make you feel and what does it make you want to do? That's a great brand if it makes you feel something. And so, yes, I think leadership can come without ownership, so to speak. And so that's how I think about it.
You can see us both smiling because you just nailed it. That is our definition of a brand. It is all about emotion. It is all about connecting emotionally with a product or a thing. And I agree completely. And I kind of answered my own questions I was saying out loud because we talk about that all the time about how you can build ownership with a brand where you own that brand. You may not have financial stake in it. You may not be part of the company, but you can own it. And as a brand, you want people to own it and to have vested interest in the success of it, right? And I guess that's a deeper level. So that leadership part comes from promoting that ability to embrace it and become part of that tribe, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think I'm so passionate about it, and I believe that there's so much good and so much exciting, I'm going to call them just overcoming that I think is on the come as we embrace this mindset.
To the point that you just made, Matthew, and I'm going to kind of tie it into what Michael said, I think that it really does all go back to sports, which we were kind of joking about sports right before we got on the air. But I think about the stories about sports that Hollywood makes into movies and that we all watch and love so much. And I'll use Rudy as an example. He wasn't a starter, but he was a leader. You don't have to be an owner to be a leader. I think the leadership comes from passion and commitment, not 70-hour work weeks and, overworking and stressing yourself, but truly caring and going out of your way to find solutions and making sure that your stakeholder, whether that's the customer or a coworker, is handled, is taken care of. That's leadership.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sports is a great avenue for seeing this, witnessing it, experiencing it. And you're exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I read you had a sports background? I'm sorry, Jackie.
That's okay.
Well, I'm a sports fanatic. I love all sports. I mean, I grew up playing all sports. I was fairly good at a variety of sports at the high school level. I had the opportunity to play baseball at the collegiate level. So, I mean, sports have always been a big part of my life, and I'm a huge fan. Right. So I love it. I'm passionate about it, and I follow, many sports.
Nice. I'm sorry, Jay, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I just assumed you were going to try to rope him into some sort of an NIL conversation because Michael's trying to rally as many people to his side on the incompetencies of the NCAA right now.
Well, I could go deep and or wide as you wanted on that, and I have lots of opinions and exciting things. One thing I will say, which is interesting, which might be a little bit off topic, what's going to be fascinating, since we're kind of at the peak of football season right now, what's going to be fascinating to watch as it relates to NIL and the NCAA landscape and things like that was this year an anomaly in that the parity that we saw and witnessed was really exciting and fun, but was it an anomaly, or was this more of this is what the new future is going to look like because of NIL and how colleges and universities are able to pay people? My alma mater is Brigham Young University. They had a phenomenally fun and exciting football year for them. Very relevant. I mean, Jewish quarterback. They won a lot of games. They obviously they did some fun things, and they were relevant where usually they're not that relevant. So is that an anomaly, or is that a trend, right? Are the Indianas, right, and the BYUs and the SMUs of this year, is that going to be the new thing where now there's a broader group of universities that have relevance year to year, or was this just an anomaly? Can't wait to watch. I have a lot of opinions on it, and actually a lot of insights into what different universities and programs are doing associated with that. A lot of fun things. And by the way, tying it back into leadership and branding, man, there's some really interesting learnings coming about as this takes place.
100%. Our alma mater is the University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns, and we spent a joyful 10-win season ourselves and had an 8% relevancy into the conversation. Boise State obviously stole our thunder, and that's fine. We coughed up a conference game that we should have won. But otherwise, and Tulane kind of maybe exposed us a little bit. But otherwise, we had a pretty darn good season, and we're happy to be there. To your point, I do think that it is providing the parity that it was supposed to be providing. I think this is the new normal. I think that a 12 or 16 team playoff is the magic elixir. Watching all 4 of the top seeds go down tells me it's a whole new world, and I'm here for it.
Right, exactly. Me too.
Well, it's the have and have not so too still. I mean, unfortunately, like our son actually just finished his collegiate baseball career a few months back. He played for a very small college. There wasn't a whole lot of NIL deals for Millsaps College of Mississippi. For University of Louisiana, Jackie actually started the NIL program at our university, helped kind of organize that and get that ball rolling. And again, it was It wasn't great. It wasn't,
My
a lot of people,
program wasn't great. Clarify.
it was, the money wasn't there compared to some bigger universities. I mean,
Yes. Sure.
there weren't kids staying an extra year because they were getting paid a lot more, that kind of thing. Like, it was right now people are staying in college because the money's better, it's more secured, more whatever. And I mean, it's insane. And that's great. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying everybody doesn't get the same thing. So
Right.
there's still going to be a have and have nots, regardless of what you do with it.
Right. It just seems that the haves is broadening
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
relative to the have-nots. That's the interest. It's going to be interesting to see if that actually bears out in, performance. It did this year. Will it continue? I think so.
Well, and I think one of the things to look at, and to me, this, again, sports is such a metaphor for so many parts of life, which is why I think we're all fascinated by it and pay attention to it. When you look at what the SEC has positioned themselves as a super conference, and those really great players have the opportunity to go to a big team, a big name school, and maybe get a big payday, but maybe not be a starter, or go to a mid-tier school where they can be a superstar and get a lot of national recognition and set records and stack some stats. There's some decisions that 18, 19, 20-year-old kids have to make for their future. And that's what I love about it. I actually think that as long as we keep roster limits set, that's the most important thing to me, then you can only have so many people on your team, and then you're maxed, and all those other good people have to go somewhere. It filters down to the mid-majors. And so as a fan of mid-major schools and a big believer that the Sun Belt is the best in the the group of four, I think there's a lot of future there.
Matt, let me introduce you to super fan number 2, Jaci. She knows more about sports than I would ever want to know. And I played a lot of sports, and I still don't have as much knowledge as she knows about everything. So anyway, yeah.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be taking Aaron's job reporting from the sidelines, but I do love it. I love how it connects to life, and college game day makes for a fun way to start a Saturday. So
Absolutely.
it's all good. Let's get back to you, though, Matthew, and leadership and your book. So when's your book going to be published, and how do people order it?
It's out.
Okay.
You go to leadership.com and publish it there. It's obviously on the other distribution channels, Amazon, etc. But it's out, and we are just beginning kind of creating this movement around redefining, re-exploring really what it means to be a leader, how to be a leader, and how each one of us in our everyday lives can exhibit some of these traits and actually create this positive energy that the orbiting concept describes.
When I think of leadership orbit, and I think that is such a brilliant title, so smart, it is to me quite obvious that, people orbit around leaders and leaders orbit around problems, and, we all kind of orbit together. So I haven't read the book yet, but it feels like you've named it aptly. What are some of the big takeaway suggestions? And I still want people to buy the book, so don't tell them the end. But what are the big things that you want people to kind of be looking for, or the reasons why they should be buying it, what they're going to get? Kind of sell it a little.
Especially at this time of year, January, end of year, start of a new year, New Year's resolutions, new year, new you. This is a great time of year where people are really they're thoughtful about some things they may want to change, or things they want to get better at, or things they want to overcome, or some of the, call it, bad habits they want to eliminate. This is such a great time of year for those types of moments. And that's an individual thing. Sometimes families do it as a family unit thing. And certainly businesses go into a new year with new plans and new goals and new projections and budgets and all those things. I think one of the most helpful and I think engaging parts about the book is I talk about one, destination fallacy, and how the destination fallacy really it hurts your ability to see New Year's resolutions through, or to see goals all the way through, where you kind of have the January effect and you start and you fizzle out and it dies. And I think at this time of year, it's just so helpful. Destination fallacy really talks about you're always focused on some end goal, some big outcome, And once you get there, man, then everything's going to be okay. And that it's just a fallacy, because even when you get there, it's never okay. And there's some next thing, but getting there actually requires both motivating and rewarding / incentivizing your own self with the daily micro habits needed to actually accomplish those goals. And again, there's a whole conversation around personal attributes with that. And there's also a business organizational conversation. And I really think that's why most organization transformations, New Year's resolutions fail, because people are obsessed with the destination instead of the momentum needed to get there, and instead of those daily bite-sized micro habits needed to get there. And I dive into that deeply in the book. I think it's one of the secrets to high-performing individuals that don't have a title but create this feeling, that this leadership attribute is they're very good at being consistent and doing small, consistent things over long periods of time.
I have a philosophical question for you, another one, based on, we work with we've been really fortunate to work with a lot of really great CEOs actually, and people that really, the past 10 years or so, that understand branding, they appreciate it, they understand marketing, advertising, and not just from I have to do it standpoint, but from I understand the benefit of it. And they want to be involved, they're engaged, we get to work with them directly, and it's really been positive. At the same time, a lot of CEOs are very, they're not on a, I mean, how to put this? They've reached a certain point in their life of success, and it wasn't by accident. Like, they've had to obviously come through a lot of hoops. So that means they know a lot of stuff. And then at the same time, they assume that they know more about things than maybe they know, because they know everything, because they run a company with hundreds of people work for them, and they're industry giants, whatever it may be, whatever industry. And it's just an example, whoever that may be. Is there a time in the cycle of leadership of life, like when you own a business, where you can look in the mirror and say, you know what, I could use some help, or I can change, or I can get better, or is it, where is the cycle for this? Like, in your experience, that you should get on board? There's Jaci's like a sponge. She goes to every leadership conference on the planet and reads every book. And I mean, she's constantly learning and growing, and she always has new ideas. She's constantly bringing them in. So I think she's kind of like, she buys in, right? She's drunk the Kool-Aid for that and understands the value of it and the need for it. Yeah. But for somebody else that is like, look, I'm successful, why do I need that? And they may be running off people and they don't even know it, that kind of thing. Like, where is the tipping point with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100% it makes sense. I think that life has many seasons that are, I mean, one of the ties to the title of orbit. Yes, you talked about you're in people's orbit, but also orbit means you're revolving around, a center. That is life, that's business, that's personal, and we're always revolving around. There's some good moments in that, there's some bad, hard moments in that. And I think you would agree that branding and leadership actually both rely on consistency, clarity, and authenticity. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's really important to recognize that you are going to have probably more moments of difficulty where you actually need help, and you need you need like grit and determination. Then you will have moments of, I'll call it, the laying on the beach and it's breezy and easy moments. You're going to have all those moments in any sort of life, but you have to be consistent, and you have to be equally, I'm going to say, optimistic, hopeful, positive, regardless of what stage you're at in the orbit, because you're going to go through it many, many times. And I think that leaders, if they find themselves feeling comfortable, that's a pretty good indication that they should be looking in the mirror, looking at ways of, okay, can I maintain this attitude, this peace and this energy when something goes wrong, which it inevitably will and does.
Yeah, we have a company that we work with, and one of our favorite clients, been with us for years now, and they're very successful. They have offices all over the planet, and they do really good work. Their CEO is, I think, a role model for that philosophy. When we first started with them, one of the directives was, I need the spotlight off of me, and I want it on everybody else. And I thought that was very, authentic and real. And he's like, look, I'm successful. Everybody knows me for what I do. I need my team to be successful. I need that culture to grow around me. So they brought Jaci in specifically to go help people how to build their own brands individually within the company. And so the company would become stronger for it, make it spotlight on the company versus just me. And I thought that was really a great step in that direction. And he's been great to work with ever since because of that mentality, I think.
Absolutely. And I think, I tie it always back to branding when I'm talking to you because you're the experts in that. But how do brands or companies or leaders act in the most severe, distressful moments versus how do they act when everything's going well and going right moments? And if there's consistency in that, man, that's long, that lasts, that endures, that's something that you can get into this self-sustainable moment in. And I think it's just a really important attribute of leadership, which, by the way, I believe individuals at all levels can actually work on and create within their families, communities, things like that. So
I agree. And I often look at, and Michael, thank you for those kind words about how much I seek out knowledge, because I think we all have to be lifelong learners, not to bring
Somebody's got to read.
sports.
Somebody in the family's got to read, Jaci.
I'll take care of you. You do the math, I'll do the reading. Which is a joke because neither one of us math very
we're
well.
screwed.
We
That
are
is
not
gonna work.
mathers. We somehow gave birth to a chemical engineer. We're not really sure how she came out that way because we are not the STEM family for sure. But so I think, going back to sports, I think it's about being a lifelong learner. You don't go pro and stop training, stop working out, stop getting better at your craft. If anything, you have to do more than you did in the phases before. And so I think when we get out of college or whatever your schooling was and start your professional career, you have to continue to be a lifelong learner. I think that's an important part of leadership and setting an example. So
absolutely.
kudos.
Absolutely. And with the sports, with the sports analogy, which is so good, name a sport or a superhero in a sport that bats 1,000, always shoots birdies, is perfect, passer completion, never turns the ball, like whatever sports analogy you want to go to. The best individuals are the ones that can maintain a consistent, positive, progressing attitude, even when things are going really wrong, which sports, things go really wrong, sometimes for your own fault, many times for your teammates' fault, and even sometimes for crazy things like the weather's fault or a referee's fault. And can you be consistent? Can you grind through it? Can you continue to promote the energy that gives your teammates and your team and your coaches and your fans, something to lean into regardless of those moments? That's orbit.
Right.
That's leadership.
No, that's brilliant. And that's, we hear it all the time about the people who show up at 5 a.m. To go through game film before everybody else. And they're the last in the gym or the practice facility to get in a few more reps. Those people we hear about because they're the best at their craft because they work really hard at it. And I think that's the signal that everybody needs to understand that really reflects leadership.
Well, I think,
Absolutely.
Jack, and I think back to our like I said, our son played baseball in college for 5 years. And the first year he got there, he came from a small high school, but he did really, really well. He was a really good pitcher, broke records. He was just won a state championship. Yeah, he was great. Got to college, went to a small school. The entire senior class the year before he graduated, he was a freshman. They threw him in the deep end. He was all of a sudden on the mound throwing against college players. And I don't care what division you're at, baseball's hard. And the higher you get, the harder it gets. And there was no leniency. He got hammered, and he never gotten beat up like that before. I mean, home runs, but you know what? He never put his head down. He never shied away. He got back up every day and kept battling the whole year. And I was never more proud of him for that. And I have to remind him now as he gets into the career force, it's like, you need to lean on that. You need to remember those times that you rose above that. That's what the lesson was. You never back down from that challenge, and life's going to bring you more challenges. I coach a lot too when he was growing up, and I tell kids all the time, look, you're going to get your heart broken. You're going to lose jobs. You're going to have things are going to go wrong. Let these moments remind you that you can you can savage the storm. You can work through those things. So I agree with the sports thing. I think regardless of it, not just sports, but competitive things where you're challenged, that's what teaches you how to, grind it out, how to be a grinder, and what is it? What does Coach Robitaille say? We have a coach here who passed away a few years ago at the University of Louisiana, and he would say, work while you wait.
Work while you wait.
I love that mentality.
Yeah.
That's we have arm brands with it. I mean, it's everywhere down here, but it's like work while you wait. You may not be the starter today. You may not have what you want today, but you know what? While you're waiting for that moment, go bust your ass and make it work.
Yeah.
Learn all the things you can. And there's no better advice, I think, in the world is work while you wait.
I love that. And just to double down on that, if someone can find true joy and meaning in the working while they wait, as opposed to, when they win a state championship or when they win all the accolades, but if they can actually find their purpose in just the working part, that is sustainable. That can actually last. That actually is something you can do, because you can do that whether things are going good or bad. And if you find your meaning in that, that's something that propels you forward through it all. And that's exactly kind of the essence of leadership orbit that I think is just so critical right now, as opposed to the destination that everyone focuses on, right? And you can't count on that. And that's
like what you said about the leadership growth cycle of that. Like when you're that person, I think people around you, like that's where they feel that. And like, I guess leadership comes from different places. Like when somebody sees somebody working hard like that and having the joy in that work, that inspires everybody else. You don't have to get up and give a speech.
That's
you
right.
don't have to be the because I may not be as wordy as Jackie. Jackie's a great public speaker. I'm not. I tend to ramble a lot. But again, like you don't have to have that. You don't have to be dashing personality and extrovert personality to be a leader. You can be a leader just from getting the job done and doing the right thing, right? I mean, you agree with that philosophy?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Matthew, one of the things that I think is always a challenge to people, it seems that our time is more constrained than ever before. Our work responsibilities are more than ever before. I'm waiting for the robots to come and free up all my free time, but they haven't showed up yet. So I'm still having to go to work and do the hard stuff every day. And so I think a lot of people run into some challenges with finding time, quoting some things I've heard from clients lately, finding time for the extra stuff, the professional development, the leadership training. What do you recommend to people to help them find their way into being better at these things?
Thanks for bringing this up. I love this topic. I think those who can master time management truly do have superpowers. And I do believe that the time management topic is obviously something a lot of people write about, a lot of people think about, a lot of people stress about, and we feel so busy. But it's also the great equalizer. Because guess what? Whether you're the billionaire king of the world or you're someone that's just struggling to get by day to day, guess what? Everyone has 24 hours in a day. We all have the same amount of time. And so how we use that time and harness that time and manage that time for ourselves and for our own efforts and goals makes all the difference in the world. So that's one component. It's a great equalizer. And the second part of that is, I think we get overwhelmed often in thinking about, man, how I am so busy and I want to do all these other things, and we lose focus on, or we lose, we seem to forget that to make the most drastic changes, improvements, enhancements, whatever it is that we want to do, it actually requires very little time. It just requires daily, consistent time done over long periods of time. And so we often overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. And so I love the topic. I'm passionate about it. I just think it goes back to, again, micro habits, small daily things. If you want to make a change, if you want to work on some leadership development thing, if you want to learn a skill or a trait, if you want to learn how to play the piano, whatever, all these big things, you're just like, I just don't have time for it. If you actually stop and say, wait a second, I do have 10 minutes a day that I can find and allocate. And if I spend 10 minutes a day doing anything, learning to code, playing the guitar, doing some sort of physical thing, 10 minutes a day, if you do it every day over a year, miracles happen. I mean, just crazy miracles. And we do have 10 minutes. We do have 20 minutes. We don't have 10,000 hours to figure out in a week, but we do have 10 minutes a day. And that's what I would say on that.
Right. No, 100%. There's a great set of lessons that Stephen Covey put together on the 7 habits. And one of them is about the rocks, the big rocks and the little rocks, and prioritizing. And there's a video on YouTube if anyone wants to go find it. It's from probably 1982. And the lady has some big shoulder pads in her jacket. So it has not aged well, but the message is timeless. And, you know, if we take all the little things we do throughout the day, check social media, respond to emails, this and that, our day gets full. If we prioritize the big things, time with family, spiritual life, rest, vacation, because those are important things, education, ongoing leadership training, the other stuff still happens. Those little things fit in the crevices. So the video, I think, does a better job than I just did explaining it. But it is a brilliant theory, well illustrated, and it's something I live by. I try to set my big rocks every day because that's how I know I'm going to get things done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Michael, you look like you had something you wanted to say about the big rocks.
I don't like big rocks.
How can you
I'm
not
not a
like
rock
big
person.
rocks?
Matthew, I'm not a rock person.
But big rocks is the important stuff in your life. That's the things you care about.
That's why you have the rocks, and I like to follow your rock path.
To be clear, I think you are my rock right now. And not in a good way.
I've been through all those classes. I've been through the Stephen Covey. I've been through the 7 Fishes or whatever it's called. I've been through the Seattle Fishes. There's a bunch of them out there. And they're all interesting, and I enjoy them all. I'm a personality that like, this is a great example right here. This is my notes taking abilities. I have 18 notebooks on my desk, all filled with things I should be doing and notes. So I try, but it just doesn't always work out. So I'm a work in progress, Matthew.
Listeners, just to give you some clarification, Michael has literally picked up about 18 different notepads and books. And I can tell you from experience that when I see him in a meeting with a client, when I see him in a meeting with a client, he is intentionally, furiously scribbling notes, taking notes. And then it's the running joke around the office that same day, later that day, or the next day, we will see that notepad on the video game machine outside the bathroom, or on the counter by the ice machine, or around the corner in the kitchen. And then he's gotten a new notepad for the next day's notes. And that is why he has 18 notebooks, because he doesn't put them all in one book. He just uses different books. And as you can imagine, he can never keep track of the notes he just wrote.
And again, I'm kind of a lost cause, but I couldn't have done. I mean, I have a good partner. I chose well. I chose a good partner in life. I chose a good business partner. And really, if we weren't in a relationship, she would have been a great business partner, because she's very open to ideas and involvement. She understands where her strengths are. She understands where my strengths are, and we do well. I think we wouldn't have made it this far without that ability. But she's the clear leader of the group as far as like running a company. I mean, there's different kind of leaders, right? There's leaders that you can lead a group by example. You can lead a group by inspiration. You can lead a group by providing, whatever that may be. And then there's like leaders, like people that run companies and understand how to do financials. And some people aren't. I'm not cut out for that, at least. I don't know if y'all looking at me.
I don't think Matthew wants to be a part of our marriage counseling session once a day. I think he's done.
I'm fully supportive of your marriage and your business partnership.
Thank you.
And your business partnership.
If you don't see the video of this, the silence of the stairs that look at it go.
Matthew's like, where is the parachute? I'm firing my PR person. Who booked me on this thing? How do I get out of it?
What I'm saying is there's different kinds of leaders.
Absolutely. And the roles and responsibilities and like really what sets us all apart, it varies greatly. And there's not just a one size fits all, solution for anyone.
I'm going to cut all
True.
this anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael's just gonna edit it. So
Yeah.
That's where I have the power.
Yeah, exactly.
for sure, for sure, for sure. Matthew, one of the things that I noticed in some of your writings and in speaking today is a real care, I think a genuine care around authenticity. And I think that level of vulnerability is necessary and important and missing in a lot of leaders today. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I think man, I have very deep and painful failures. And I think everyone does. And I think going through those periods where there were colossal business failures and difficult situations that just were very, very hard and trying. In those moments, what I found were really authentic individuals that cared and wanted to help. And I drew great strength from that. And I learned from that. And it's something that I wanted to emulate going forward. And I think that especially in today's social media crazy world, where the things we see that are pushed to us constantly every time we open our phone, right? I think it's difficult to sort through the noise of what's real and what's authentic and what's just for show. And I think leadership has to be authentic for it to stick and for it to actually help individuals around. And again, I go back to my definition of leadership is very different than, a CEO, right? My definition is who's able to help those around them lift themselves up. And without authenticity, without being real, without actually, when you're in trouble or when you're going through a hard time, actually being truthful about that, I think it's hard to find that. And that's why it matters to me.
Fair enough. I think that the people who pretend that they haven't had failures or act like it's all easy set the rest of us back a lot. So I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability because I think that people need to understand it's hard. And being an entrepreneur is tough. It is lonely and scary and kind of sucks sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Life is too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, business is just an extension of life, but the hardness is what creates the progress. And I just think embracing that and being open about that is very useful in helping those around your sphere, your orbit, actually, want to participate in that progression. And that's why I think it's just so critical. I think you would agree on the branding side, authenticity matter. I mean, ultimately, you can fool people for a period of time, right? The facade of a pretty Adobe Photoshop stuff and whatever, right? It can last for a season, but ultimately people will find, you'll see right through it. And I think that's true in business with leaders. And I think that's true with, brands. And for sure it's true with businesses. And then again, by extension in personal lives. Yeah, it's tough. Life is not always, peaches and cream. Sports teams don't always make the playoffs. It's tough. And so we got to be real about that. And I think people actually are attracted to that.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, it always bleeds through. I tell people that all the time, with companies like your culture, if you don't have a healthy culture inside, people aren't really happy. Eventually it will show through. And even on huge corporations, if you have weak leadership or not strong leadership, if there's people that are unhappy within there, eventually it's going to bleed out. People are going to feel that and they're going to walk away from it. They're not going to be attracted. Like I said, they're not going to be attracted to that. They're not going to want that because eventually it shows. And it's not always publicized. It's not like you read a report, but it happens. From how you answer the phone to how you're delivering a package, or how your attention to detail, all those things eventually bleed out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, if you subscribe to the belief that progress is more important than perfection, because perfection is just unending effort, right? That's really the only thing you can be perfect at is just always trying your hardest. That's it. And by the way, that's enough. If you subscribe to that in a company culture setting without transparency and authenticity, what is needed to overcome or to continue to progress, which is finding where the cracks are, finding where the holes are, what's wrong, where are the issues. If the facade of inauthenticity, right, is there protecting that, you're never going to progress. And that's why people leave, because they don't want to be stuck in something that's not going to get better. And so I think that's why it's another, critical component to, you have to be authentic. You have to be transparent. And
100%.
don't we all wish that more of the pronounced leaders, whether that's politicians, government, don't we all wish that there would be more transparency? Because I think if there was more transparency, there would likely be more causes for solutions to the problems. And that's what I would say.
Interesting that you would talk about transparency, because that obviously dovetails nicely with authenticity, which we've been talking about, and vulnerability. And, those things aren't usually connected with politics, which you just brought up. And so, not to pick sides in a battle or discuss anything political of nature, but just in general, I see a concerning bit of change in people and in our political landscape as we now have the power of reporters in our hands. And so on the one hand, there's a lot of value to it because people can shine the light on something. Everybody can be illuminated to what's really happening. And I think that's healthy. And on the other hand, there's a chance for people to share their opinions, not facts, because they're not journalists. And those opinions can be skewed. We just referenced the fires that are unfortunately raging in Los Angeles right now. I quickly glanced through some social media this morning, and there was a post talking about how, and I'm going to quote this person, suspicious it was, and they rattled off 4 or 5 big name celebrities all living in the same neighborhood and being affected by this fire and house. And I'm thinking, it's not suspicious. It's a very expensive neighborhood with very expensive houses. Of course they all live by each other. But
right.
People are so wired for conspiracy right now and so ready to break the news that I think it clouds our judgment. And so I think it goes back to your point, authenticity, vulnerability, people being real. That's how we build brands, personally and professionally. And I think that's how we work our way through this.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, anytime somebody agrees with me, I think it's time to end. I want to take that win and immediately stop whatever we're doing. No, but seriously, before we wrap up, Matthew, if you want to give everybody a quick reminder on the book and how they can find it and find you to continue to follow you for insight and wisdom, this would be the time to do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed the conversation and the time. Love your efforts and your podcast and wish you the best as you continue to move forward. Good luck to your sports teams too. I referenced Leadership Orbit. There's a website, leadershiporbit.com, that people can go to. There's actually some interesting content reports that you can get as well as buy the book. It's also available on Amazon. MBL Partners is my new platform, and we have an entire playbook around our thriving mentality and what we do to help businesses and how we invest in businesses associated with that. So mblpartners.com is also a resource. And of course, personal brand, MatthewMathison.com.
Very well done. Thank you for your time and your wisdom and your insights. I think that we are all smarter for having spent the past hour talking with you, and you make us better. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys. And we wish you the best.